Welcome to another video in my fantasy worldbuilding project, Heroes of the Ravaged Gardens. Previously, we met commoners from the mountain-dwelling Marquis and the nomadic Aegir. This time, our journey through Morne brings us face to face with some of the Emnonites from the Emnic Concord. Up until now, I've used the term commoner to distinguish the people we've looked at in this series from the warriors from my earlier soldiers videos. In the case of the Emnic, that division is moot once we venture outside the walls of an Emnic city, as here every Emnic has to be a warrior. As an example, what we're looking at here is not a professional soldier, but an archaeologist. His lesser house have pleaded, dealt and borrowed to fund an expedition, hundreds of swords, sled loads of food, a couple of skilled navigators, all in the hope that it will yield results that bring them glory and profit. While the wilds are uninhabited now, by humans at least, someone lived here once. Ruins are everywhere beneath dirt, moss and roots. Did a living Emnic city used to be here? Or an Aegir dwelling? Or something else entirely? Designing this guy, I wanted him to have regular European-looking medieval armor. It's the standard Emnic garb after all, but with some details befitting an explorer. Gaiters for his lower legs give the proper feel, I think. Pockets, of course. And a wide-brimmed helmet with a removable cloth covering that should protect against both heat, cold and wind. It does make him look a little bit like a beekeeper though. The gear is brought includes everything you'd expect from an archaeologist. Excavating tools, rope and tarps, a map case full of maps and plans. Weapons-wise, he is carrying a buckler in his house colors, and as you may have noticed, 2 swords. The reason for that is fashion. The sword is a culturally important object in the Emnic religion, being symbolic of their god, and it is expected that pretty much everyone carry one in public. Though in some places and situations, it may not be practical, safe or legal for everyone to carry a deadly weapon. Someone, some time ago, didn't want to present themselves culturally nude in these situations, and started to carry a harmless facsimile, a one-piece handle and scabbard that could remain on their person no matter the surrounding circumstances. People took note, and highly ornamented fakes, often carved from a single piece of wood and decorated with metal and gemstones, started appearing on fashionable people's hips. Soon, 2 swords became the norm, one real and one fake. In the field, they swapped the fake for a backup real sword instead. The typical Emnonite carry also includes a dagger for minor daily tasks. Most important of all is our archaeologist's best friend. Dogs are very popular in the Emnic cities, and many of them have unique local breeds that have been bred in isolation for 1,000 years and more. There are multiple ways for an archaeologist or similar explorer to profit from their expeditions. Bring back artifacts and treasures to sell, secure funding from investors and patrons for further expeditions, or sell the story of your travels. Accounts of journeys are very popular. They are printed on wooden printer presses, often illustrated, bound with a textile cover, and sold. Emnic literacy rates are quite high. The next person I designed is a librarian in the service of a rich household, tasked to manage a growing collection of texts. These include not only published works of accounts of journeys and other tales, but also everything the members of the household themselves have gathered as part of or leading other expeditions. And loose accounts and unfinished notes collected for sheep from less entrepreneurial travelers. The collection of all the texts in all Emnic libraries hold millennia of invaluable information, but are too often poorly managed, in catastrophic condition, and hard to track down. Still, this particular librarian seems to have things under control. She is wearing quite typical Emnic clothes. Their fashion often takes inspiration from armor, striving to emulate the warriors they hold in such high regard. Embroidered shoulder pads are reminiscent of pauldrons, the neck gaiter of a gorget, and the pointed cut in the front of a cuirass. Thick, sturdy boots are a must-have as well. From her cloth belt she hangs a single, modest sword. Real or fake? Sometimes it can be hard to tell. She is also carrying a pipe and a pouch for valuables, coins and tobacco. The hem of her dress shows a scene from Emnic mythology, in which Emno, god, caught and tamed the first horse, Regular horses have existed within Emnic cities for a long time. They are unfit to live in the forests outside the cities, and they're only used for competition and transportation within the walls, having originally been imported from the barren plains that the Emnic called the Weaklands. Animals play a role in the culture and religion of Aegir and Emnic both, but as actual gods in the Aegir pantheon, and as prey and enemies of God in the Emnic faith. Emnic culture, although a warrior or adventuring culture at heart, of course have more things going on. Emnonites enjoy food, music, sports and arts just as much as everyone else in their own way. One form of entertainment that is popular is dance. As Emnic culture praise individual achievements, shows often put the most focus on a solo performer, although they sometimes dance in pairs with the dance evoking a duel. The accompanying music often is played on flutes, shamisen-like string instruments and drums. There are two main types of dance, one being the Magnolia style. Magnolia trees are connected to the war because of their strength, aggressive root growth and their beauty. This is most common in narrative shows, retelling heroic tales in grand operas. These theatric performances use fanciful props and costumes in a spectacular way. The dances are supposed to showcase might, precision and strength. In my research, I stumbled upon a performance of Georgian natural dance. It just looked exactly like what I envisioned an Emnic Magnolia dance performance to be. As far as I can tell, there are many different types of Georgian national dance, with much varied symbolism behind them. And I don't want to misrepresent them by straight up copying them into a completely different fantasy culture. But if you look at Georgian Kaniluri or Kaspiguri, you at least get a feeling of what some Emnic dance performances could look like. The other type of Emnic dance is the Willow style. Willows are tough but slender and pliable and sway graciously in the wind. The roots grow wide and fast. In the world of the ravaged gardens, they are considered a dangerous and aggressive species, similarly to the Magnolia. Often more popular in smaller venues, street performances and private gatherings, the Willow style dance is meant to showcase agility, tenacity and fluidity. These dances feature no props or elaborate costumes, in order to wholly focus on the movements of the performer. Here I took inspiration from contemporary dance, specifically videos from Marie-Louise Hertog. At the center of most Emnic cities, the tall towers, manors and cathedrals dwarf the surrounding workshops and residential areas. And surrounding those are the fields and farms. Some are owned by the rich families in the cities, some by the crown, and some by small corporations or individuals. Many hired workers live in the inner residential areas, while many others still live out in the farms. All Emnics are expected to seek challenges and fight for glory for themselves and their families, and to venture beyond the city walls at least once in their life. Although the further you go from the royals, nobles and priests at the city center, the less dedicated people tend to be to the Emnic ideals. They are regular people after all, not a hive mind. Many just want to live a good life and, if possible, happy and comfortable, not seeking out unnecessary dangers that can lead to injuries, dismemberment or death. To them, some of the warrior nobles and expedition leaders can come off as crazy and cavalier. This farmer seems to have put his real sword away for good, if he ever had one, choosing instead to wear only a modest facsimile and a small carving knife. This other farmer, on the other hand, wears a short version of an older style of sword. This shorter style has come about in order to still be useful as a tool by the people that live and work every day out here in the green regions. The dual swords fashion trend has not reached this far yet, or they can't afford it. But apart from that, what they are wearing is quite fashionable, typical Emnic work clothing. Horses, oxen and cows work the fields, where they grow massive crops of many different kinds. The impressive harvests this fertile ground produces are the reason these cities can sustain their massive populations and their expensive outings on a relatively small amount of land. That's all I had for this video. I'm super happy to be done with the Commoners trilogy. Drawing is hard, but I can't wait to get better and share more of my ideas and concepts with all of you guys. If you have any questions or critiques, fire away, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye!